The funeral procession moved slowly, like the city itself was holding its breath. Black cars stretched down the avenue, polished to a mirror shine, their engines humming low. At the front stood a white casket surrounded by roses so fresh they still glistened with dew. Above it, a massive portrait of the billionaire Isabella Moreau gazed down at the crowd, calm, elegant, undeniably alive in the photograph, despite the fact that today she was being laid to rest. Or so everyone believed. Rain drizzled lightly, tapping against her umbrellas and soaking into expensive coats. Politicians, business tycoons, foreign dignitaries, all stood in silence, heads bowed, rehearsing grief for cameras and conscience alike. The media had already labeled it the end of an era. Isabella Moreau, the self-made billionaire who had transformed waste management into a global green empire, declared dead after a sudden accident in her private penthouse. The official story was simple. Too simple. At the edge of the crowd stood a man no one noticed at first. He wore a faded orange safety vest over a dark hoodie, his boots caked with mud and oil. His hands were rough, scarred by years of lifting what the world discarded. His name was Jonah Cole, and he was a garbage collector. He shouldn't have been there. But Jonah hadn't slept since the night Isabella died. He stared at the casket, his jaw clenched, his heart pounding with a certainty that refused to loosen its grip. She's not dead. The priest cleared his throat and began the final prayers. A few mourners dabbed their eyes. Others glanced at their watches, impatient to leave. Jonah felt time closing in on him like a trap. If he didn't act now, the truth would be buried forever. As the pallbearers stepped forward to lower the casket, Jonah pushed through the crowd. Stop. The shout cracked through the quiet like thunder. Every head turned. Security guards stiffened. Murmurs rippled across the mourners. The priest froze, mid-prayer. Sir, this is a private ceremony. She's not dead. Jonah shouted again, louder this time. Don't lower that coffin. Gasps erupted. A woman shrieked. Cameras swung toward him instantly. One of the guards grabbed Jonah's arm. Get him out of here. Jonah wrenched free. You can't bury her. She's alive. The billionaire's brother, Victor Moreau, stepped forward, his face tightening with fury. This is outrageous, he snapped. Who let this man in? Jonah pointed at the casket, his hand shaking. I did, because I know what they did to her. Silence fell, thick, electric. Victor laughed coldly. You're a lunatic. Then open the coffin, Jonah said. If I'm wrong, arrest me. If I'm right. Victor's eyes flickered with something dark. Enough. Remove him. Two guards closed in again, but before they could drag Jonah away, a voice cut through the tension. Wait. It came from Elena Moreau, Isabella's daughter. She stood rigid, her black veil trembling as her gaze locked onto Jonah's face. Let him speak, she said quietly. Victor turned. Elena, I said let him speak. Reluctantly, the guard stepped back. Jonah swallowed hard. This was it. He took a breath and spoke fast, before fear could silence him. I work night shifts, he said. Garbage routes, industrial pickups. 3 nights ago, I was assigned to the Moreau Tower. Whispers surged through the crowd. That was the night she died, someone murmured. Jonah nodded. I was in the service bay at 2 in the morning. The penthouse elevator came down, private, restricted. 2 men were pushing a medical gurney covered with a tarp. Victor scoffed. Hospital staff. They weren't hospital staff, Jonah cut in. I've seen paramedics. These men wore security uniforms. No badges. And the tarp moved. The crowd stiffened. Jonah's voice shook now, but he pressed on. I heard breathing. Shallow, but real. I asked what was inside. One of them told me to mind my own business. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. They wheeled the gurney toward the incineration unit, Jonah said. Not the morgue. Not an ambulance. The incinerator. A collective gasp swept the mourners. That's impossible, Victor snapped, though his voice lacked conviction. Jonah's eyes burned into him. I followed them. When they weren't looking, I lifted the tarp. His throat tightened. It was her, Isabella Moreau. Pale, unconscious, alive. The rain seemed to pause. They saw me, Jonah continued. One of them tried to shove me away. I panicked. I yelled. And then, he hesitated. Then the fire alarm went off. Several heads turned toward Victor. The men ran, Jonah said. Left her behind. I shut the incinerator down and called emergency services, but the call dropped. I stayed with her until private medics arrived, men I didn't recognize. They took her. After that, the death announcement came out. Elena stepped forward, trembling. My mother's body, we were never allowed to see it. Victor's face drained of color. This is absurd. A grieving man making up stories for attention. Jonah shook his head. I didn't come for attention. I came because I found this. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small object sealed in plastic, a ring. A simple platinum band with an emerald stone. Elena's breath caught. That's her ring. Jonah nodded. It fell off her finger when I covered her back up. I kept it. Because I knew, someone was lying. The murmurs grew louder, urgent. Elena turned to Victor. You told me mother was dead when I arrived. You handled everything. You said it was too traumatic to see her. Victor's jaw tightened. I was protecting you. From what? She demanded. The truth. The priest backed away slowly. Security hesitated, unsure who to listen to. Jonah took a step closer to the casket. Open it, he said again. If she's inside, I'll walk away in cuffs. Elena looked at the coffin, then back at Jonah. Her heart thundered. Something inside her screamed that he was right. Open it, she said. Victor lunged forward. No, but it was too late. Elena nodded to the guards. Do it. With shaking hands, they moved to the casket. The lid creaked as it was lifted. A scream tore through the crowd. The coffin was empty. No body. No remains. Just silk lining and a single white rose. Chaos erupted. People shouted. Cameras flashed wildly. The priest staggered back, crossing himself. Victor stumbled, his composure finally cracking. This is madness. Elena turned on him, eyes blazing with betrayal. Where is she? Victor said nothing. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Jonah felt his knees weaken, but relief flooded him. He hadn't been wrong. She's alive, he whispered. An officer approached. Sir, you're coming with us. All of you are. Victor was restrained as he shouted protests. Elena stood frozen, staring into the empty coffin like it might suddenly give her answers. Hours later, the truth began to unravel. Victor had staged Isabella's death. Isabella Moreau had uncovered massive corruption within her own company, illegal dumping, falsified environmental reports, offshore laundering. Victor was involved. So were board members. When she confronted them, they decided it was easier to erase her. She had been drugged, not killed. Declared dead to transfer power quickly. But they underestimated one thing. A garbage collector who paid attention. 3 days later, in a guarded hospital room miles outside the city, Isabella Moreau opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was Elena's tear-streaked face. Mom, Elena sobbed, gripping her hand. You're alive. Isabella blinked weakly. I told Victor, I wouldn't back down, she whispered. Elena kissed her forehead. You don't have to. Not anymore. A nurse stepped aside as Jonah hovered awkwardly near the door, cap in hand. Isabella noticed him and frowned faintly. Who? Elena turned. This man saved you. Jonah shifted uncomfortably. I just did what was right. Isabella studied him, her gaze sharp even through exhaustion. You stood up when everyone else would have looked away. She squeezed his hand. Thank you. Weeks later, headlines exploded across the world. Billionaire fakes death. Brother arrested. Garbage collector exposes corporate conspiracy. Victor and the corrupt executives were charged. Assets frozen. Investigations launched. Isabella returned, scarred but unbroken. At a press conference, she stood at the podium, alive and resolute. I was almost erased, she said. Not by strangers, but by those I trusted. If not for one man who refused to ignore what he saw, I wouldn't be here. She gestured to Jonah. Applause thundered. Jonah stood stiffly, overwhelmed. Later that day, Isabella met him privately. I owe you my life, she said. I'd like to offer you a position, head of internal safety and ethics. Jonah blinked. Me, I'm just a garbage collector. She smiled. No, you're a guardian of truth. He accepted. Months passed. The city cleaned itself, not just its streets, but its conscience. And on a quiet morning, as Jonah walked past a park, he saw Isabella sitting on a bench, sunlight warming her face. Alive, free, because one man refused to let the world bury the truth.